So good afternoon to those of us joining online from our global audience of the UWC family, our partners and stakeholders, and those joining us here in Singapore in person as well in the ABT Theatre on the Dover campus of UWC SEA. So a very warm welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us. And we're delighted that for our first session this afternoon, we have our speaker is Forrest Lee, who is the founder of the C Group. And the topic this afternoon is the world of work towards the future. And in our session so far at our 50th anniversary forum, we have been talking about learning to shape the future, and that has included both on the topic of education, but of course, towards the future of work for the young people in our schools and colleges across the world. So let me just briefly introduce Forrest before asking him to speak. Forrest Lee is the founder of C and has served as its chairman and group chief executive officer since C's inception. C, listed on the New York Stock Exchange, is a global consumer internet company. It was founded in Singapore in 2009 with a mission to better the lives of consumers and small businesses with technology. C operates 3 core businesses across digital entertainment, e-commerce, as well as the digital payments and financial services known as Garena, Shopee, and C Money, respectively. Forrest is a member of the board of directors of the Singapore Economic Development Board and serves as an independent non-executive director of Shangri-La Asia Limited. He also serves on the board of trustees for the National University of Singapore and on the advisory council of Stanford University's Graduate School of Business. Forrest holds an MBA degree from Stanford University's Graduate School of Business and a bachelor's degree in engineering from Shanghai Jiao Tong University. So Forrest, thank you for joining us today. You are a long way away from us, but thankfully with the benefit of Zoom, you're able to join us in person today. And I would like to hand the floor to you, Forrest. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Kama, for having me here today. Let me start by wishing UWC Southeast Asia my warm congratulations on achieving this milestone. For 50 years, you have shaped young minds and changed many lives, an impact to be very proud of. It is my honor to speak to you today on the future of work. I understand there are many young people in the audience today who are about to join the working world. If I may, I have 3 pieces of advice for you. First, hold on to your ideals. A tension many young people face is whether it is possible to do this, but still succeed in the working world. UWC teaches students to hold strong values, and rightly so. Some of you may be wondering whether you may need to compromise those values to succeed in your careers. My belief is the opposite. Ideals and dreams should drive careers. You have many years of your working life ahead of you. It would be a waste to spend all that time and energy on something that is not meaningful to you. If you try, you will always be able to find a way to work on things you care about. That is how it was for me. I started Garena, a game company, because I love games. But more than that, I wanted to create a place where talented people could thrive, have fun, and bring the most joy to players. I started Shopee because I wanted to bring ease and convenience to families across Southeast Asia. I wanted to build a platform that could let them buy almost anything online easily. Over time, we saw how our platform could also empower those who were left out of the digital economy. People could start to buy things online they never had access to before. Small business owners could start to access a huge market beyond their neighborhood. This real, tangible improvement in people's lives became the drive of our work. In the end, we have choices. You can choose to join an industry, a company, or a field where you feel you can make a difference and live out your values. That is why I became an entrepreneur. I urge you to listen to what your ideals tell you to do. Another common worry among the young is about what skills you will need to thrive in the future economy, given how rapidly things are changing. My advice is, rather than focusing on what will be different, focus on what will be the same. It is impossible to know what future jobs will look like. Many will be completely different from today. But some skills have been valuable for all kinds of jobs over hundreds of years. These are soft skills that no degree can train you for. In any working environment, it is your ability to communicate, coordinate, problem solve, and work in a team that will matter more than your technical training. When we evaluate talent, we value qualities like commitment, discipline, responsibility, and the willingness to learn more than pure technical ability. Because every industry is a team sport, no individual can achieve great heights alone. You must always be able to work with others. My last piece of advice is, wherever you go and whatever you do, try to use your generation's innovations to do good. This may sound easy, but it is not always the case. At Sea, our deep belief is that technology can drive positive change, a strong force for improving lives. But every innovation is a double-edged sword. It all depends on how it is used. So I hope you will always ask, of any new technology you get a chance to work on, how can this be used to lift people up rather than hold them down? How can this improve lives and reduce suffering? This is not just the work of charities. Sea is proof that a mission like that can make business sense too. When your starting point is that you want to help people, you will naturally start to build something that people want in their lives. You will find a business opportunity for it. These are my messages for you today. When you enter the working world, I hope you will do so with your values intact. I hope you will work more on your soft skills than only worrying about hard skills. And I hope that you will take every chance you get to use new technologies to uplift others. If everyone in your generation did that, imagine the amazing impact you could have upon the world. The future is bright, and there is a lot you can achieve. Go out into the world and change it for the better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Forrest, for those very uplifting words and talking about both a values and mission-driven business, but the values that business looks for in its staff as well, which I think is a very powerful guide for our subsequent conversation. So I'd now like to introduce from the C Group, the two other panelists for today. We have two of your colleagues with us. We have Professor Yan Shui-Chung, and we have Jessica, who is the Senior Director for People Strategy and Leadership at C. Let me please first introduce Professor Yan. Professor Yan Shui-Chung is currently Director of CAI Lab, SAIL, SAIL, and Group Chief Scientist of C. He's building SAIL up from zero. In addition to other significant fellowships, Professor Yan is a fellow of the Academy of Engineering in Singapore. His research areas include computer vision, machine learning, and multimedia analysis. Till now, he has published over 600 papers in top international journals and conferences. He's consistently been cited among Thomson Reuters highly cited researchers since 2014. Professor Yen's team is also highly successful and has been awarded many times in internationally renowned competitions. And to add to that, Professor Yen is also a parent in the UWC SEA community. Let me also introduce Jessica. As Senior Director for People Strategy and Leadership at SEA, she works closely with various business leaders and people leaders on crafting talent solutions for the company. Prior to joining SEA, Jessica spent more than 10 years with the Boston Consulting Group across Shanghai, San Francisco, Hong Kong, and Singapore, working on both business strategies and people strategies. She holds a Bachelor of Engineering degree from Shanghai Jiao Tong University and an MBA degree from Harvard Business School. So thank you to both Professor Yen and to Jessica for joining us. Professor Yen, may I ask you just to add a little bit more to your bio, your short bio, but telling us a little bit more about yourself so we can get to know you a bit better before we start asking questions.
Okay, thank you, Karma. Yeah, also thank you, Forrest. Yeah, I think I should be among those who are very familiar with the area around the UWC Dover campus. First, I'm a parent of UWC, as Karma just mentioned. My daughter is at grade 5. Yeah, she's enjoying the wonderful life in the beautiful Dover campus. Yeah. Secondly, I ever worked in the connected NUS for about 11 plus years and nurtured quite some PhD students in the campus. So now I work in the nearby C group, founded by Forrest and his amazing partners. Yeah, acting as chief scientist, as Karma just mentioned. Yeah, so I'm building the CA lab with the ambition to push the artificial intelligence towards artificial general intelligence, which is more powerful, more human-like, and able to acquire new skills quickly by zero or few demonstrations. Yeah. So overall, I'm a researcher with particular interest in intelligence, including, for example, the human intelligence from humans like my daughter, and artificial intelligence from machines. Yeah, Karma. Yeah, thank you very much.
Lovely, thank you. And turning to Jessica.
Thank you, Karma. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today to attend this 50th anniversary forum. Warm congratulations to UWC SEA. As Karma mentioned, in my current role, we work very closely with business leaders and people leaders across different business units at SEA, crafting talent solutions to help our employees having a better journey at work. Outside of work, I'm a mother of 2 daughters. My older daughter is also entering senior school later this year. During my day-to-day interaction with her, I also think about what the workplace will be like for her in the future. And also in my spare time, I volunteer my time coaching and mentoring senior school students and college students, help them define the path for the future, which is very close to the topic we have today. So I really look forward to the discussion today. Thank you, Karma. Back to you.
Thank you, Jessica. So we have some questions, and starting with questions for all of our panelists. And I'm going to turn to you first, Jessica, if I may. So we've been asked, sometimes we hear our alumni talking about critical moments in their experience at UWC SEA. These experiences which help to shape and decide their future career. Were there any such moments in your education or your life that really helped you to decide your future career? And if so, would you be prepared to share them with us?
Sure, thank you, Karma. As mentioned in your introduction, I spent more than 10 years in management consulting. One of the critical shifts in my career is from looking at the business and commercial side of strategies to looking at people strategies. I used to be a little bit technical and nerdy in my high school. One of my favorite activities was solving the physics problems with my best friends at school. And also in management consulting, I spent most of my time looking at the business strategies, business valuations, and Excel modelings. But here I am today looking at the people strategy. All my work is about people, connecting with people, understanding people, helping people develop. I'm an executive coach and a career coach. I'm also a psychometric assessor. And also in addition to the work here at Sea, I help people grow and develop. I find a lot of fulfillment in my work today. Looking back, I think there are two major shifts or critical moments contributing to this. One is my education at Harvard Business School. I took the leadership courses there, where we are required to read a lot of case studies and books on leadership, which makes me realize that people is at the core of execution. People is at the core for us to deliver better results and a bigger impact. The second shift in my career or in my life is the birth of my older daughter. During the birth of my older daughter, I start to observe her very closely. I observe how she grows. I observe her behaviors. I observe how she develops her likes and dislikes in life. And I'm also thinking about how to educate her better, how to shape her behaviors, and how to motivate her better in life. I started to read very broadly about psychology, about human behaviors, about motivations. Following this path, I ventured even further to take programs and courses around psychology coaching, and during which I find that following my intellectual curiosity helped me to land where I am here today, which is a very fulfilling career at the leading at the people side of things. Yeah, thank you. I hope this is helpful for the audience today. Back to you, Karma.
Thank you, Jessica. And I think that Professor Yen is going to tell us about those moments which helped to define his thoughts about his career.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So actually, I ever discussed with my family and friends quite some years ago. Yeah, we truly observed that there is a clear turning point actually for my life. That is my shifting from the pure mathematics to artificial intelligence. Yeah. So actually, for my age, when I studied in middle school and high school, I was educated and believed that we may have a bright future if we learn mathematics, physics, and chemistry well. Yeah, so I selected computational mathematics as my major when I entered Peking University for bachelor study and PhD study. Yeah, so the formulas of metrics is really beautiful. Yeah, but I often thought if these formulas can be used for some real-world applications, it will be more exciting. Yeah. So at that time, so Microsoft opened a new lab in Beijing. Later, it's called as Microsoft Research Asia. So at a talk from Microsoft Research Asia, I learned that the core formula of the singular value decomposition in computational mathematics is being used actually for solving problems like the amazing image retrieval or face recognition. And more importantly, the hiring interns. So applied, and then my whole life trajectory has been totally changed from a purely mathematical researcher to an artificial intelligence researcher. Yeah. So actually, the underlying factor driving this change is that internally, I expect a balance of theory and application. Yeah, this is quite similar to the so-called maybe Tai Chi or yin-yang theory. Yeah, a good balance of theory and application may put a researcher in the most effective and healthy status. Yeah, so the logic for my critical moment is that I originally have my own ideas and dreams in mind. And right at that moment, it shows that actually my dream can become reality. Yeah, so my personal opinion is that opportunities or critical moments actually are only for those well-prepared people. Yeah, so that is my personal sharing. Yeah, so back to you, Karma. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Yen. And Forrest, could you share any such moments in your life or career, your education journey with us?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Kama. For me, actually, like I have been asked for this question many times, and I've been thinking a lot. I do feel actually it is hard to pin down a single moment that changed everything in my life. Many moments in my life built on each other and became the journey that brought me here today. So I would say all of my experiences play a part. It's hard to differentiate which is a more critical and which is a less critical. So I think it is a natural for young people to look for critical moments that make or break a career. But I think the three principles I just spoke about are more important than any one moment. So if you hold those principles first, then everything you do will contribute to a successful outcome. So it will happen naturally. I know a dramatic moment would make for a better story, but looking back, it was not a single moment for me. Rather, it was the gradual connection of many moments that brought me to where I am today. So it's okay to just let your journey unfold.
That's really interesting, Forrest, that the three of you took such, look back on your lives, and the things that were sort of, changed the course for you were either cumulative or there was a specific moment. So I think that's important really to what you've just said, that we don't need to focus on one way of developing our careers. And in fact, that leads us on to the next question around what the future of work actually looks like. And we've heard, and including in the forum discussion so far, we've heard people describing careers now as not being about albums, but about playlists, with this generation potentially reinventing themselves multiple times throughout their career. What is your view on this, and how can students be equipped for that? So Professor Yen, over to you first.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, come on. Yeah. For this question, I have two personal suggestions. So first, I think set a lifelong goal, which is enough for one person to pursue for the whole life is very important. Yeah, so it's not so good, for example, you set a goal for the middle school and then high school and then college. Yeah, I think from the early beginning, if you can set a lifelong goal, this will be very valuable. Yeah. Secondly, I think we should prepare ourselves to be an explorer. So means ready to start a new journey anytime, but still target the same goal. Yeah, so this is my feeling. But basically, this is not avoidable that we need to reinvent ourselves in certain ways. Yeah, because there are two types of reasons. So one is internal reason, another is external reason. Yeah. So internally, self-satisfaction is a major driving factor for life. Yeah. So mostly after we reach certain goal for the life, we may feel actually the current job maybe it's not so exciting anymore. So means we need to change, for example, the contents of the job or the job role in certain way to ensure that we can still be passionate. Yeah. So this is one way, one reason. Another reason is from externally. This is from the technology side. According to the Gartner technology development curve, yeah, or the so-called hypercycle. Yeah, so it means that technology innovation shall go through 5 stages and finally will reach the very stable stage. And then in this stage, most original workforces will have to leave the original technology and move to the new development cycle for another different technology. Yeah, so means no matter from internally or externally, sometimes we need to passively or actively reinvent ourselves in a certain way. Yeah, but from this analysis, I feel when we set our lifelong goal, it should be technical agnostic. So means because every technology has its own cycle and mostly one technology is impossible to be eternally exciting for one person. So it means you should be prepared to change and reinvent ourselves at the right time. Yeah. Okay, back to you, Karma.
Thank you, Professor Yan. And I'd like to turn to Jessica and maybe just also add there is a question that has come in through the chat. And if I could ask on the question of potentially reinventing ourselves multiple times throughout a career, could you also maybe comment, Jessica, given that your people role, are there alignments in the young people of the different markets that you serve, both perhaps in terms of the careers that they expect, but also what you're seeing with the young people coming on board?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Karma. Let me answer the question of the playlist first. Based on my own experience, I think it's very important to follow your intellectual curiosity and also the willingness to try new things to land where you are exploring the job universe. And in addition, I have two inputs for the people exploring the job market in the future. The first is know yourself really well. So usually the best career options will be at the intersection of what we are good at, what we really like, and what the world needs. While we are uncertain about what the world needs, the job universe is very dynamic, but what we can control is what we like and what we are good at. So be very crystal clear about these two fronts. I think it's very important for us to explore our future path. And then the second thing is to invest in learning and building transferable skills. As Forrest mentioned in his speech, the soft skills are very important for the future, which can be transferable across different functions and across different industries. So for the soft skill side, I have one thing to add on is that there are 3 types of soft skills is going to be very important for us. I think that can potentially answer also the questions from the audience, that what we observe, the 3 set of soft skills are very important for today's young people. The first is the thinking skill, the critical thinking and the problem solving. Although I shifted myself from business strategy to people strategy, but the thinking and the problem solving method has mostly been the same. The second one is the communication skills. It's like today we're having this panel discussion, we are giving public speeches, we are communicating with people in order to influence them. This is really important. We can have all the thinking, the ideas, but in the future, it's still about influencing the people around us. And then the third type of soft skill is the managerial and the leadership skills. So this becomes even more important when we exploring our career path, when we become more senior in our career path. It is the leadership skills in order for us to play a bigger impact in the role that we have. So I think with these, equipped with these transferable skills, no matter how the job universe shifts over time, the rise and fall of the different job categories and with the technology advancement, I think the students today can be better equipped for the future. Yeah, I hope it answers the question from the audience.
And actually, thank you, Jessica, because you have picked up a question that has come in on the balance between academic success and soft skills, actually, and maybe we can come back to that later on. I did want to ask Forrest the question about playlists versus albums as well, and if you had a comment on that, Forrest?
Sure. Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Actually, at first, I wasn't quite sure what this question meant in terms of albums and the playlist. And but thinking about it, I suppose albums are very artist-centered. You may not like every song, but you buy it as a package. But playlist is a more listener-centered. You can pick only the things you like and add it all together. I think it's good to try different things to explore what you really love, find what your passion is. In the playlist, you can listen to many songs and get a sense what you like, and this is important. But I would say that when you find what you are passionate about, it matters. There should come a time when you stop exploring and try to build on it rather than always looking for new things. So go deep into it. This is how you create a meaningful career and life.
Thank you, Forrest. There's some really important thinking there, and I'm sure we'll get some questions, you know, as to how that has helped to shape your individual careers as well. I have some questions now more on the technology side for Professor Yen, if I may. So, Professor Yen, technology drives so much social development, but many people also look at the influence of technology in recent years as possibly being quite negative. Jobs lost to automation, excessive screen time, unsocial social media are often referenced as prime examples of negative impact. But assuming that you believe that it can be a force for good, how do you see technology benefiting everyone versus the negative impacts that are so often reported?
Yeah, okay, thank you, Karma. Yeah, I think this question is quite big. Yeah. Technology itself is quite broad. So maybe for me, I mainly answer from the perspective related, for example, with artificial intelligence. Yeah. So basically, I want to share my personal opinion from the three different aspects. So first, where are these negative impacts from? Secondary, how to determine a technology should be utilized or banned. Finally, how can these negative impacts, for example, can be eliminated? Yeah. So first, actually, as Forrest just mentioned in the speech, every innovation is a double-edged sword. So it means that the negative impacts of technology sometimes is not avoidable. Yeah. So the negative impact of technology may come from how we utilize the technology. For example, the nuclear technology can be used to generate clean energy and then protect the environment of the Earth. But can also be utilized, for example, to produce the destructive weapons. Yeah. So this is the one aspect. And secondly, that negative impact of our technology may come from the technology imaginaries. For example, the current smart speaker often cannot understand the intention or the needs of the user, sometimes may generate, for example, very funny or very strange answers. Yeah, this is because the current technology for natural language processing is still not good enough. Yeah. Finally, I think the negative impact may come from the fact that as a new thing to the world, it is quite difficult actually to fully predict all the effects of a technology to the society. Yeah, thus sometimes some unexpected situations may appear with the application of a technology. For example, the original targets of the social media apps are to help users to communicate anytime and anywhere. But the real consequence is that some users fully rely on the virtual social activities and ignore the real physical social connections. Yeah, this is quite bad. Yeah. So since there's no perfect thing in the world, then a question is that how to determine whether a technology should be banned or used. Obviously, actually, we should not immediately, for example, ban technology only because some negative impacts for some users or some scenarios appear. Yeah. A more reasonable way for me, I think, should be to determine based on the expected long-term and accumulative values to the society. Yeah. So it's not based on this kind of short-term or immediate, for example, observation. It's based on the prediction and the long-term and accumulated, for example, values. Yeah. So if from the long-term perspective, then the negative impact of a technology may be eliminated or elevated, for example, with certain solutions. Yeah. So first, I think some negative impacts may naturally disappear along with the natural evolution process. For example, the question mentioned the job loss issue, right? Yeah. But as it was said, when a door is closed, the God actually will open another door to us. So when the original jobs disappear, mostly some new jobs will come out. Or human as a whole need to work much less than before. So for example, 30 years ago, we need to work for 6.5 days per week. Now we need to work for 5 days per week. But we believe that in future, maybe 4 days or even less time will be required for each week to work. Yeah, so this is one aspect. Another aspect is that I think also more important is that technology itself is a solution to the issues or the negative impacts caused by the technology. So the impact technology shall become more and more mature along with the further development of the technology. Yeah, so it is predictable along with the, for example, the further development of the natural language processing. For example, currently we can see quite a lot of this kind of amazing result from OpenAI based on this kind of so-called large scale model. We believe actually the capability of the smarter speaker will be better and better. And even more, we may have more home robots actually to help us to finish a lot of this kind of housework in the future. Yeah. And also the unexpected impacts from a technology may be alleviated by another new technology. For example, the unsocial social media issues may be resolved by telepresence technology. So means which makes remote social activity more realistic. The excessive screen time issue actually can be possibly alleviated by augmented reality glasses, which ensure we can see through the screen, and this can protect our eyes and also our necks will not be hurt anymore. Yeah. So personally, I'm quite positive and also passionate about the new technology. And if we may be patient, I think the new technology shall be better our lives, and at the same time, the negative impacts can be eliminated along with the time. Yeah, so this is my personal opinion. Yeah, Karma, yeah, back to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Yan. And that's a very rich theme of conversation. And we're lucky to have you in our community, because I think we're going to have to invite you back for a longer session. And in fact, working together perhaps with our students as well, to really think through some of what they see as the negatives and positives of technology, particularly in the world of education, where sometimes you know, we need to have more conversations about technology beyond a particular gadget, but also how we enable different ways of teaching and learning. And there are those amongst our teaching community who are working very closely in this area around the technology.
Very pleasure to do. Yeah.
We'd love to have you back to work with us on these big questions. So thank you so much. And I have another question that was submitted in advance for you, Jessica, which is, what are the top challenges attracting and retaining the new generation, the younger workforce, the Generation Z that we hear about? So all of those born after 1995, what are the kind of top challenges you face in both attracting and retaining them in C?
Yeah, thank you, Kamar. Yeah, so look at the students in the audience today. A lot of people are going to enter the workspace potentially in the next 10 years. And also in the technology firm, a lot of our employees are slightly younger than the traditional industry, potentially in the around 30s or below 30s age range. So how to work with this younger generation? How are they different from the millennials and also the baby boomers before? That is a big topic for a lot of people teams across different companies, for all of the companies to address that. And they are going to make a bigger and bigger proportion of the workforce going forward. And also with the slightly decline of birth rates around the world, I think the workforce is potentially going to shrink, and the companies are even going to fight this talent war. So how to understand this younger generation better is a very important topic. They are born after the era that the internet and the World Wide Web is invented. So they are digital natives. They are very familiar with the social medias, potentially spend a lot of time on social media and screen. Their attention span is potentially slightly shorter. So how do our managers and leaders engage them? And the traditional levers are not as effective as before. before that, we are using potentially the package, the compensation, the benefits in the workplace. And then there are a lot of other perks. But while understand this generation people more, like Forrest mentioned, they are pursuing their ideals. They are looking also at not only valuing the companies based on their products and services. So how do we attract and retain them become a very important topic. What we also find that what is effective is understand what they value in their lives. Probably there will be less about financial security. They are probably about less about also, the ideals that they are pursue at that point of time. What they value more is the mission and the purpose of the company. The second thing is they value flexibility a lot, especially this post-pandemic world. And then the third thing they value a lot is learning and development. So a lot of companies like us, we are investing a lot on building a very strong vision and culture for our employees, cascading the culture down through the whole organization. The second thing we're working on is providing potentially more flexibility for our employees. And then the third thing is that we're investing a lot on the learning and development of our employees, trying to attract and retain them better. So the talent war is coming. And for the future of the workplace, and I think it's not only the employers are out there on the market competing for the talents, it's also the students here today, who's the Generation Z workers, who's going to enter the workplace and become the leaders of the future. And I think it's also very important for these group of future leaders, the students here today, to think about how they can help shape the future workplace to be a better place. Yeah, so back to you, Karma.
Great, thank you. I think we have time possibly for one, if not two more questions. And I'd like to take something from a question submitted in the chat. And maybe I could ask you, Forrest, this question, if I may. And yesterday in our forum, we talked about the benefits of a connection with nature and outdoor education. And I wondered if you could say a little bit about how, the alignment between, that connection to nature that perhaps we've lost a little bit more through the pandemic. And how do you see that? Our mission is for sustainability and for peace, and connecting young people across cultures to with that mission in mind. And I wonder how you see that. Have we lost, in a wider sense, that connection to nature, or actually do you have a lot of hope for the teaching of sustainability in education and the connections to nature?
I think like technology or digital economy, digitalization definitely help us to allow us to spend more time outdoor. Like just think about without a smartphone, right? And if we want to do anything, we want to study, we have to stay in the room, to stay in front of a computer or stay in front of a desk, right? And but now with my phone, with my smartphone, right? And I can go anywhere, and I can still like enjoying the outdoor, like enjoying the nature. At the same time, I still feel well connected. And when I'm working or like working in the nature or running in the nature, I still can feel connected, right, to my work and to the work by my phone. Yeah, I think like this is one aspect. And the other aspect is I think digitalization largely increased the productivity, right? And as I mentioned, like one example is for e-commerce. This indeed offer people like a lot of like small merchants and small sellers more opportunity to sell things just not only to their neighborhood, but for the national like or worldwide market. I think this is in general improve their productivity and also like improve their life quality. This will allow them, right, to spend more time or spend like have more resources to enjoy the nature through a holiday or through a vacation. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Forrest. I think that's another benefit from digital technology, that that we heard there, it gives us more time to connect back into nature as well, and you know, putting nature at the forefront and that connection with nature in education. So I think we're now on to the last question, and the one that I wanted to ask to you all, and perhaps just briefly to ask you, perhaps starting with Jessica again, understanding that soft skills will be increasingly important. How important are grades and academic success when you recruit? Should students have more autonomy to choose their own schooling playlist, or should there be a schooling album? How much does past experience still contribute to help develop both hard and soft skills in the future?
Yeah, thank you, Karma, for this question. And I think in today's world, as parents, we are all under tremendous pressure, how to, you know, educate our kids, how to put them into the best education institute possible, the best schools with the best grades and a lot of exams to go through in life. All of us facing that pressure during growing up as well. Where we find that in recruiting talents, sometimes what's on the CV, what's on the grades, it's on paper, it's fixed, and it's passed. Once all these can get them through the first bar threshold, get them foot into the door for the first round of interviews. Then during the interviews, a lot of it is about how they communicate and connect with the employers. And also a lot of set of values and the soft qualities they're displaying. For example, resilience, self-discipline, commitment, and also the values. Like the C, we have the 5 values, we take it deep to heart. We run, we commit, we stay humble, and we adapt. These values are very important, and we are assessing the cultural fit of our candidates to our values. So a lot of these things, I think matters more is that how you come across as a person. Are you true, authentic to your values, as Forrest also mentioned? Are you true to your future, what you want to achieve in life, what you are truly passionate about? Those come across very well during the conversations with the companies. But the grades, the schools people went to, and also the past experience that stays on the CV. Sometimes it actually can backfire on people that we sometimes do come across candidates with a very impressive CV, but in reality, when they show up in person, we got slightly underwhelmed by the candidates, you know, how they present themselves in front of the potential future employers. So I would think still working a lot on the soft skills. Don't be too nervous and stressful. Even if people didn't go to the top schools, people didn't achieve the top grades at school, the life is a marathon. There is still a very long way to go. Over time, the values and the qualities and certain characters will shine through in the longer, really long, like a career path, and especially when dealing with uncertainties in the future. Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica. And in fact, I'm being reminded that we're slightly over time, but I wondered, perhaps I could ask Forrest if you just have a few final words for us, picking up on that last question, and particularly that's what Jessica said about life being a marathon. What would be your tips for our younger, those joining us who are younger, who are going to enter the world of work in the future? Do you have a few final words for them?
Sure, yeah. And first, thank you for having us for this great session. We really enjoy, and I hope like the audience find it informational and interesting. And I think like we touch a lot of interesting point. I want to echo what Jessica just mentioned. I think like by the end of the day, life can be very, very different. Life experience can be very diversified. And I think every student, every young people is very talented and is very, very unique. I think it's really, really important rather than trying to figure out what is the right answer, what is the right path. I think the most important thing is to trying to figure out who you are and what you are really good at, what you are really passionate at, because career and life is a really, really long journey. And only if you do something you really enjoy and you're really passionate, doesn't matter it's a study and it's a work, and you don't feel it's a study or it's a work, you just simply enjoy every day. So every day you wake up in the morning, you feel excited about how you spend the day. I think that's will like carry you for a very, very long journey. And that is the most important thing.
Lovely. And thank you so much, Forrest. It has been such a privilege and a pleasure to be able to speak to you, to Professor Yen, and to Jessica this afternoon. And we have identified a fair number of areas where we'd like to follow up the conversation as well. And you've given us a lot to think about. And in particular, you know, following your values, what makes you passionate. We've had a lot of conversations in our forum so far about purpose and being purposeful as well. And so I'm starting to see how all these things are coming together as well. And when we're thinking about the future of work, we've talked a bit about the role of technology, but there's so much more to be said as well. So we'll definitely be following up with you, Professor Yen, as well. But thank you, Forrest, and for joining us at what is an unsociable hour for you. So we're very, very pleased that you were able to join us. And thank you to all, and to those joining us online around the world. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Kama. Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.